Let's do it.
Why the hell not? Into the fog. Which is after a night's out, you're probably in the fog. So it's fun.
There we are.
It's a fun little Swedish joke.
It's always beer o'clock.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Beer Bubbles. Today we're going to do something a little bit different.
Well, as you can tell, there's not one beer in front of us. It's actually 7 different ones, but of one style. Because we've been asked to do a special about IPAs, so we thought, let's do it.
Why the hell not? So we're doing, as you said, 7 different IPAs, different kinds of IPAs. So.
Yep, they're all, basically all different styles of IPAs. And we're going to go from your left to your right.
Yes.
But before we do anything, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You can do that by pressing the little bottle down below here.
I can open it for you if you want.
Yeah.
But
So,
let's get into the first beer.
yes, should we start with, we'll open the first beer and then we'll talk about what IPA is. Okay?
Go ahead.
So this is a session IPA. And session is basically an old English term of a beer that is lower in ABV. Not as strong, so you could actually drink a full session all night and still walk home, or at least drink all night and then go find your home when you were supposed to go home for dinner.
Try to find your home. I had a story that the workers in England got paid in beer.
I've never heard that one, but it might be true.
Yeah, but for lunch they had they could get 2 beers for lunch.
Maybe.
Something like that.
This beer comes from a brewery in San Diego called Stone Brewing Company.
Fantastic brewery.
Yes, do some magical beers. I've actually been there. They've got they built in the middle of an industrial site. They've actually built a beer garden with ponds with koi fishes and it's absolutely stunning.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
I hope the beer is as good. I
Yeah.
have had this before.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. It's quite quenchable.
Is it 4.5 or something like that?
It is 1.7.
4.7. It's quite dry and it's got quite a lot of bitterness to it. And that is typical for the West Coast style IPAs. And now we're not talking about West Coast in Sweden, we're talking about West Coast in the US.
Yes.
California mainly.
I like it.
It's a really good beer. The name IPA stands for India Pale Ale, not Indian Pale Ale, because it's not an Indian beer. It's an India Pale Ale. And the story, because no one can verify this really, the story is that the English, when they occupied India, the Englishmen down there wanted the beer just as they drank it at home. And at that time they drank pale ales, light ales, low in ABV, and in beer you got 2 preservatives, naturally. Alcohol and hops. So they actually made a beer that's a bit stronger and lots more hops in it, and it managed the entire trip down to India. There was no Suez Channel back then, so they had to go all the way past Africa and up. So
That's a long way. But luckily they managed to find a way to.
yeah, well, that's
deliver
what
the
the
beer.
story says anyhow. I've heard afterwards that IPAs actually were in existence before India was occupied by England, but hey,
It's a nice story.
it's a good story. I'll stick to it.
Yeah. Well, next beer, we're going to a brewery called Fjäderholmarnas.
Yeah, I think we're gonna try 3 beers at the same time, because we actually have 3 beers from Fjäderholmarna.
So let's do the.
I'll pour the Jago.
Let's do them back to back. I'll show you
Jago.
these bottles as well. And the beer you can see there is called In i Dimman Hazy IPA.
So it's Into the Haze. basically.
Into the
Into the haze or into the fog.
into the fog, which is after a night's out, you're probably in the fog. So it's fun. It's a fun little Swedish joke.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
So we have 3 beers here, all IPAs. And if we start looking at the Jaro,
Yarrow IPA.
it's a bit coppery in color. It's not a full haze beer, if you could say that. You can actually see through it.
A little bit unfiltered, not much.
And it's got a bit of like almost dried fruit on the nose with the hops. So this is more of a like classical IPA, I'd say.
Looks creamy.
Well, we'll try it. I've never tried this before, actually.
Cheers.
It's dry, it's bitter, with kind of a caramel and hop back note to it.
Yeah.
It's really full in body, but it still has a bit of bitterness that makes it doesn't become too sweet, basically. And that is, I'd say this is more of a. They're probably going to hate me for saying it, but it's more of an East Coast style IPA because it's got more caramel notes to it, and it's really palatable, really quite easy to drink, even because the bitterness actually cuts down the sweetness from the caramelized malt.
It's delicious. I like it. But the next one looks very
Hazy.
hazy. It's kind of a darker color as well.
Edema.
Yeah, it looks
Lots of yeast residue.
It looks foggy.
Also a bit of color to it, but not that much. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
And right away you can tell this is a different kind of beer. Different kind of IPA.
Yeah. I wasn't prepared for that flavor. I thought it was going to be a lot more juicier.
It is juicy, but it's not extremely juicy. Like almost all Fjäderholmarna beers, they do have. I'm going to do like this because I saw that. They got a backbone of hops,
Yeah.
so they don't become too juicy. We've talked about this before. I've got a problem with the juicy IPAs that become like juice bombs.
Yeah.
Where there's no backbone, where it's just. I feel a bit cheated because they smell beautiful, and then I get a mango smoothie. I didn't order breakfast; I ordered a beer, but it still has quite a lot of the like the tropical fruit notes.
Yeah, the bitterness backbone is there to make you want another sip.
Yeah.
Instead of as we said, the mango juice and stuff. Basically, this is a pace. And the third one was called Everybody's Doing It.
Yeah. And guess why? It's a New England style IPA, and everybody's doing it.
But the difference between New England IPAs, hazy IPAs, West Coast IPAs, I mean...
Well, New England style and hazies. New England style hazies are hazier, New England style and juicies are juicier, in my book.
Okay.
But that's like, it's all down to interpretation. You get juice bombs called called hazies. You get like dry, unfiltered IPAs that are called New England. So it's really up to the brewer to put what he wants it to be on the label. But
because
right
this
away
is
you can tell it's a bit lighter in color.
Oh yes.
But it's really, really hazy and really almost like metal from the nose. But this is juicier.
Oh, definitely. Definitely
So
easier.
it's much like thicker in flavor as well. In most of the hazies and the juicies and New England styles, you use both wheat and oats as well as barley.
To add to that unfiltered.
Well, the oats is mainly there to give like texture to the beer, because it gets fuller and almost thick.
Yeah, exactly.
While the wheat is there the proteins in the wheat malt helps keep the hops in suspense and the yeast residue, so you get a hazy. Well, you get a beer that is hazy all the way through.
Yeah. I like it. It's quite nice.
So what's your favorite so far?
The Stone Session.
It is.
It's just so clean. I love it. I've had it before, as I said. I've had it on my old job. So I used to purchase a few and have them in the bar.
It's easy to drink that one because it's drier as well. And you know that it's 4.5%. How strong are the other ones?
The Yarrow is at 6%. The Dimman is at 5.6. And New England is at 5.6 as well. We're moving on to our old favorite breweries.
one of our favorites. I don't know if you remember, but we were down in Gothenburg just before Christmas, and we spoke to Ollie, the head brewer. And Rasmus actually asked him, I don't know if you did it in the YouTube clip or in the podcast or just on the side.
Yeah, it was in the podcast. I asked Ollie if they were going to work with the fake yeast. And he said, not at the moment. And that they had no plans to make one. And then, just like 2 weeks ago, I found... I found the Syndafloden, their Quake IPA from Steve Bennett's. So I wrote Ollie and asked him, like, hey man, you told me you weren't going to do one. He's like, oh, I don't remember that. But he said, luckily it only takes 7 days to make it. So
it is a Quake is a Norwegian farmhouse yeast, which is really quick in fermentation. Lots of brewers, all brewers have different ways of working with Quake. Some use it and it ferments really quickly. But lots of brewers says you have to keep it afterwards, lager it after fermentation.
It tastes like sulfur if you drink it too soon. So.
But some brewers say it's supposed to be drunk as fast as possible. So it's the same there. You never really know.
Well, we had this for like 2 weeks here at least, so
well,
let's settle a little bit.
Cheers.
Cheers.
AC. Ooh, weird nose. It is a bit sulfury.
It is.
And a bit tart. Because that's what you get from Quake yeast as well. You get a bit of tartness, or not sourness, but tartness.
Yeah. It's still pretty young. I would like it to be a little bit more. I think we had from...
Åre. Fjällen.
Was it Åre?
I think so. And we've had a few.
Yeah, we had a few Quake IPAs, and some of them have been storage for like 4 or 5 months at least. I think I prefer that. It's very nice, but I think in like 2 months or so, it would be even better.
This is not my kind of beer.
Not your kind of
beer? No. I love what Steve Berry does, but this is not my beer.
I like it.
It's not. It's well made. It's just not my thing. Which is nice.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to like. Well, the strong thing about beer as a drink is that you've got such a range of stuff that you can make, and you don't have to appeal to everyone.
Exactly. And we apologize for the sun.
Yeah,
it's very brighter.
It's now right in my eyes.
But we finally got sun here in Sweden. So
last time we recorded with Örjan here, here, it was bloody freezing, like minus 14, 15 below outside. Now it's 10 degrees. The snow's melted away.
Yeah, snow's gone.
It's sunny, it's beautiful outside, and we're sitting inside drinking beer, but we're sitting in the sun.
Basically, I am really sitting in the sun right now. Well, moving on to the next one.
This is what we found today.
Yeah, I remember brewskis, they put out mango. What's it called?
Mango IPA. It was called Mango Fever.
Mango Fever, yeah, it was Mango Fever, right. But I remember the Pango as well. I think they released this before a couple of years ago.
I wouldn't know.
Great beer.
Great brewery.
Great brewery as well.
They do some absolutely stunning beers, this brewery. They're really good at sours. They've done some pastry sours lately, low ABV ones. So they did a blueberry pie and a berry pie. It was like 4 different kinds of berries.
Wasn't that the lemonade we drank with Örjan?
That's the pineapple pie.
Yeah, in the podcast.
Yeah, in the podcast with Örjan, we drank the pineapple pie 3.5. And they're really good for what they are. Not everyone's cup of tea.
It really tasted like a lemon pie. So.
Yeah. So this is their mango, passion fruit, and pineapple IPA.
Tropical, basically.
So this is a fruit IPA. Another kind of IPA. So it's actually spiced with different kinds of fruit. So let's try it. Cheers.
Cheers.
I thought I would not like that one, but I do. Because the tartness from the passion fruit really goes through and keeps it alive instead of being sickly sweet. Mango to me can become really, really like heavy sweet.
Yeah.
But since it has passion fruit in it, that is really tart as well. It works. It's gotta hate you, Marcus. You can't do anything wrong, can you? It's really good.
Boo-hoo. It's really nice, but when it comes to traditional and modern IPAs, what is the difference?
Well, it depends on if you talk about traditional IPAs as in the IPAs that were made 30 years ago until like 15, 20 years ago, or if we're talking about like the 1800s when the English did their IPA and sent it down to India. Of like late 1800s is when we started doing lagers. So it's, well, the traditional IPAs were stronger in ABV, weaker than today's IPA in ABV, even though they were stronger than the traditional pale ales.
Okay.
And they had more hops than the traditional pale ales, but there's nowhere near the amount of hops that are used today, especially for dry hopping. So modern IPAs, if we talk about modern IPAs, we're talking about the hazy ones.
Yeah.
If we're talking about traditional modern IPAs, we're talking about the dry ones, the West Coast ones, and the East Coast ones for that matter. So it's, if you've had Brooklyn Brewery's East India Pale Ale
a couple of times,
it's a traditional East Coast IPA with lots of caramel, lots of bitterness. While this is kind of part of the climate as well. If you're sitting on the East Coast and snow is like falling all around you, you by a fireplace, you want something with a bit more oomph, more body, more.
Yeah.
But if you're sitting on the beach in California, you don't want to drink that kind of beer because it's too heavy. You want something light and fresh and citrusy with a nice bitterness that cuts off all the sweet notes and everything, so you can have another sip. So the difference between IPA and IPA is almost as big as what is the difference between a brown ale or an IPA. It's like it's been such a development over the last years. So it's just new stuff coming all the time.
All right. So we're going to
Sierra Nevada.
Sierra Nevada.
Yes.
And this is a wet hop IPA.
Yeah.
I've actually never heard that.
Wet hop means that it's fresh hop that's taken from the vines and not dried.
All right.
So it's really, really fresh hops in it.
Right.
they are almost never first with anything, but they look at things that has been trends and now become like household things, and then they go, okay, let's make it the way it's supposed to be then. And they quite often succeed in doing that. And the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is still like a stockpile at my place. It's like, it was one of the first American Pale Ale IPAs that came to Sweden, and it's still one of my absolute favorites.
It's delicious. I always loved Sierra Nevada. It's right.
I think this is a bit stronger than the normal ones. It's 6.7%. Only dry, only wet hops in it, so fresh hops. Cheers, guys.
Oh wow!
And it's got another kind of life.
It's very
Chlorophyll.
yeah.
But it's got that green note to it.
Yeah,
It's
green,
like
yeah. It's like a garden in your mouth. Yeah.
it's very much alive. Good stuff.
Very good stuff. I love all the kinds of IPAs. It's the too hasty ones that I tend to try to stay away from.
I think it's my fault, because when we met, those were the ones you loved the most.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you've started me up on Belgian beers again, which is
Exactly.
It's always good to have someone who's interested to try beers with, and especially someone whose taste is not just exactly like yours. Because
Exactly.
you'll learn new stuff, and you try stuff that you wouldn't try otherwise. So it's
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really tried aged beers until I met you.
no. And now he's crazy for like old imperial stouts. I found the quote today.
You did?
So in this little book, it's always beer o'clock. I found a quote by a guy called Jimmy Cannon. And we're not going to ask you anymore, because you might notice that I actually, after we've done these recordings, I research who it is.
Yeah.
And I'll write you a bit of facts about them.
Beer bubbles, we also learn things.
Yeah. The guy is called Jimmy Cannon. And he says, I'll try to, because this is translated into Swedish. Let's do, okay. To go fishing has for me always been an excuse to drink during the day. Well, that's good, isn't it? Yeah? It's a good excuse,
Yeah.
I think.
But that works
I
with
like
everything.
fish.
I have to go do the laundry. I'll be right back.
Yeah. I gotta play some golf and have a beer. Or like I did yesterday, go play badminton, and afterwards I played badminton. Of course you're gonna have a beer.
Of course. You had your workout done.
Yeah, perfect. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
And shout out to Stone, Fjäderholmarnas, Stigberget, Brewski, and Sierra Nevada. All fantastic brewers.
Beautiful beers.
Beautiful people, beautiful beers.
Comment in the comment sections below, and press that like us. Yeah.
That like button.
Yeah.
And until next time, drink better beer.
beer.